And a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, both to our audience in the studio and those listening at home. Welcome to Across the Years, the program where our studio audience, the Elleston Trio, offers a selection of popular music from days gone by. This evening, they've decided to focus on the decade from 1900 to 1910. They'll begin with that bestseller from 1908, Won't You Come Home, Bill Bailey? That was Won't You Come Home, Bill Bailey. Next, the trio has opted for a change in tempo. This tune was originally an English folk melody, but you'll find it sounds quite a bit different when played in the style of New Orleans jazz. Let's hear St. James Infirmary. St. James Infirmary, ladies and gentlemen. Now to close out this episode of Across the Years, the trio will render their version of that famous standard from 1910, Alexander's Ragtime Band. And with that rousing performance of Alexander's Ragtime Band, we come to the end of this evening's program. Be sure to join us again next Tuesday for another episode of Across the Years on the Interesting Theater Radio Network. Till then, I'm your host, Mel Howard. Now stay tuned for the Elleston Liddell Adventure Hour, which follows a brief message from our sponsor.
This year, the people of Crossways and Commons celebrated 31 years in this wonderful building, which rose phoenix-like from the ashes of the old Young United Church. As we're sure you know, there is a great need in this neighborhood, and we, the 7 groups that make up today's Crossways, are doing our best to meet it. Our mandate is a continuation of the work Young has been doing on this site since 1891, caring for people who might not otherwise be cared for, just seeing that the work gets done. If you want to know more about who we are and what we do, you can drop by to chat or visit our individual websites as listed on the back of your program. Young United Church is sponsoring this broadcast in support of Crossway's ongoing work in the West Broadway neighborhood, which is currently focused on helping provide support and food security for those in need. Every dollar helps, so please be generous. Thank you.
And now, on the Interesting Theater Radio Network, it's the Elleston Liddell Adventure Hour.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Elleston Liddell Radio Adventure. Once again, interesting theater whisks you back to the year 1908 at the height of Manitoba's first golden age, a time when people from around the world flocked to Winnipeg to experience what many regarded as a miracle. Somehow a modern metropolis had sprung up on one of the empire's remotest frontiers where, just decades earlier, there had been only windswept prairie. Tonight's episode, for those in peril on the sea. It's been 6 weeks since Pamela was drugged and kidnapped by Toronto gangsters. Although Elleston was finally able to rescue her, her dearest friend, Phoebe Johnston, was killed while saving her life. In an effort to help Pamela recover from the trauma she suffered, Elleston has booked a cruise on Lake Winnipeg aboard the steamer SS Premier. Unbeknownst to either of them, they're about to step into a plot that's already been 10 years in the making.
There. That's all of them. Ain't nobody gonna find them here, are they? Well, are they, Owen? That's right. You can't hear me, can you? You're out there on the lake. I watched you float away, bobbing up and down, up and down. Serves you right. Said you knowed how to sail. Well, I guess you lied, Owen. I guess you lied. They told us the barometer was dropping, them dock hands at Grand Rapids. They told us. They said this boat ain't no good in a storm. Did you listen? No, Owen. But they knew. They knew. So now you're dead. And I'm... Where the hell did you take us to, Owen? Wait. Long Point. That's what you said. Long Point. That means map. Map? Where's the map? There. That way. Only 20 miles back to Grand Rapids, Owen. Oh, all right, 25. Ain't worth arguing about. We can walk that. We've done it afore. We can. But you ain't coming, are you? You ain't never coming. Bob. All right. I'll go my own self. Sand's right smooth, boat's burned. It'll wash away. Nobody'll ever know we've been here. I can walk to Grand Rapids, get us another boat. A good boat this time, Owen. A real one. Then I'll sail back, dig it all up, and head for Winnipeg. We can split it and then... No. I guess you won't be needing your share now, will ya? No way to spend it out where you are now, is there? Pickerel can't use gold, I bet. Oh, sorry. Why, I'll give your share to Helga. That's what I'll do. Lord knows she deserves better than the two of us. She surely does. Well, I better get going. You take care of yourself, Owen. Maybe keep an eye on the beach while I'm gone. If you still got eyes. No, No, don't think on that. Don't. Just start walking, Billy McGee. Just start walking. So long, Owen. So long.
What?
I asked you how you were feeling, my love.
Oh, I must have dozed off. These deck chairs. Oh my, where are we?
Deep in the Netley Marsh. Captain Stevens tells me we should pass into Lake Winnipeg within the hour.
So lush. Are you sure we haven't been mysteriously transported to the jungles of Brazil?
Reasonably sure. I understand the Amazon is somewhat wider than the Red. You still haven't answered my question.
The gaps in my memory are becoming fewer, as Regina promised. Whatever the drug Mr. Crittenden was giving me during the kidnapping, its grasp is weakening at last.
I still thank the good Lord daily that Phoebe found you in time.
She saved me twice, Elleston, and paid with her life. That is something I wish I could forget.
Courage, my love. The Phoebe I knew would demand you turn your gaze forward, not back. New acquaintances, new experiences.
Hence the Amazon of the prairies?
Why not? When it leads to one of the world's largest lakes. And we shall explore its every bay and island. Well, as much as we can see from the comfort of our deck chairs.
Silly. Oh, thank you, Elleston. Time away, with nothing more pressing than watching the waves and choosing tonight's aperitif. Just the two of us.
Pamela?
Reverend Liddell.
Oh, shh. Yes, Mr. Everett.
Sorry, sir. Captain's compliments. If you're still interested in a tour of the Premier, he'd be pleased to guide you personally.
Excellent.
Very good, sir. If you'll follow me.
With pleasure. Sleep well, my love.
One can't say they've truly experienced Gimli without visiting Turgeson's store, Mrs. Liddell. An absolute exemplar of our Icelandic heritage.
It was fascinating. Thank you, Mrs. McGee. There's so much to learn about this province. Oh, there he is. Hello, Elleston.
Hello, darling. I was just about to send out a search party.
Oh, I quite got carried away. Mrs. McGee was telling me all about New Iceland.
Oh, Helga, please. After all, we are going to be shipmates. And you must be the famous Elleston Liddell Pamela has been telling me about.
At your service, Mrs. McGee. And may I introduce Major Francis Jeffords, late of the United States Army. He'll be joining us on our little adventure.
Oh, pleasure, Mrs. McGee.
And what brings you so far north, Major Jeffords?
Oh, catching up, ma'am. I was stuck behind a desk most of my career, so I thought it time to do a little traveling. Always wanted to see some of Canada, and now I have the chance.
Well, welcome, Major, welcome. You won't be sorry you came. I promise you that.
Captain's compliments, folks. We'll be getting underway soon. If you'd like to come back aboard.
Oh, certainly. Ladies, after you.
Let go fore and aft. Engine room.
Engine room.
All ahead slow, Mr. Cornish.
All ahead slow, aye.
All right, Mr. Everett, take us out.
Aye, Captain.
Engine room, all stop.
All stop, aye.
Thanks for the lift, Fred.
What about giving up on you, Corporal?
Unavoidably detained, Everett. Official business. Here, catch. Got it. Thanks, old boy.
Bring us back in, Mr. Everett.
No need, Captain. If you gentlemen will just...
Oh, steady now. Ah, there you are.
Appreciate it, old man. Corporal Ralph Cochran of the Royal Northwest Mounted Police.
Elleston Liddell, and this is my wife, Pamela.
Charmed, madam. The author, am I right? I've just finished the case of the Atherton jewels. Ripping yarn.
Thank you, Corporal.
Not at all, Reverend. Credit where it's due, I say. Well, the sun appears quite past the yardarm. Shall we continue the introductions over drinks?
Did you not say official business, Corporal?
I did, Reverend, I did. Happily, I was off duty the second my feet left the dock. Shall we? Oh, Everett, when you've a moment, I've something I need you to look over.
Of course, Corporal Cochran. I'll stop by your cabin later.
Quite dashing. Rather like one of your Reverend's heroes.
I suppose. There's something about him, though.
My Ralph, you're quite a dancer.
Just one of my many talents, Helga. Can I freshen anyone's drink?
Oh, absolutely. Come along.
Well, these seem to be getting on famously.
They certainly do. You play very well, Major.
Why, thank you, Mrs. Liddell. I hated it when Mama insisted on lessons, but she was right as usual. I'm very popular at parties.
You're awfully quiet, Reverend Liddell.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just thinking about how familiar this all is.
Y'all sailed on the premiere before, Reverend?
Oh, Elleston, please. No, not on the premiere, but a ship very like her.
Ah, South Africa.
You served.
A captain in the intelligence. When my tour finished, I needed to clear my head. So I decided to take the long way home. The Narden was a coastal steamer. We stopped at almost every port in Western Africa on our way north, carrying passengers and supplies. I quickly discovered I needed to be doing something, so I learned to handle the small boat we used to land goods where there was no proper dock.
It's also when Elleston wrote his first book.
The Broken Land, yes. A memoir of sorts, if a 25-year-old can make such a claim.
I seem to recall Mr. Churchill had no trouble making it.
Point taken. The Lord and I have had a number of discussions about the sin of false modesty. Given the fact that I outsold him last year.
And the year before that.
Thank you, my love. In any event, it was during the writing that I came to the realization that I'd received a call. So when I returned to Canada, I resigned my commission and entered seminary.
No, Ralph. If you read the Icelandic sagas closely, the evidence is plain.
Oh, come now, Helga.
Evidence of what, Mrs. McGee?
Helga is firmly convinced that her Viking ancestors visited Manitoba centuries ago.
Well, actually, there have been a number of monographs on that subject. No incontrovertible proof, of course, but enough to warrant further investigation.
Thank you, Reverend Liddell. You see, that's why I'm on this voyage. I've been studying this subject for a while now. The sagas, explorers' accounts, Hudson Bay documents. Now at last, I think I may have found proof. Real physical evidence.
Indeed, Mrs. McGee. Pray do enlighten us.
Well, a couple of months ago, there was a story in the Free Press. A trapper walked into the Hudson Bay Trading Post at Grand Rapids with a nugget of gold. Said he'd found it on Long Point.
Good heavens! Another Klondike?
I shouldn't think so. Geology's all wrong, as I recall.
Precisely. And the HBC doesn't use gold to buy furs. Nope, based on everything else I've collected, this just adds to my belief that Vikings could have reached Lake Winnipeg.
While I admire your enthusiasm, Helga, when you've served in the North as long as I have, you've seen far stranger things than a misplaced lump of gold. I fear your little expedition may turn out to be a waste of time.
Don't you be so sure of that, Ralph Cochrane. When I find Viking gold on Lake Winnipeg, all the people who have laughed at me will be eaten crow. You see if they won't.
All right, I surrender. Helga, if there is gold on Long Point, I'll be the first in line to applaud your determination and help serve the crow.
Oh, Ralph.
Nicely parried, Corporal.
Indeed. Oh, well, I'm for a nightcap and in our cabin. Brandy and coffee, everyone?
Sounds lovely.
Excellent. Steward!
Well, boys, a good thing that trapper had so little imagination. I can't believe he didn't bother looking for any more. Of course, he don't know what we do. You sure you got it all, Jerome?
Ah, oui, Albertine. That is the last of it. Monsieur Bell's metal detector, she is very thorough.
Fine. So, what's the take, Mac?
47, 48, 49. 49 rough bars, say 500 ounces.
And $32 an ounce. Boys, we are set for life.
Better than running a saloon, no.
Oh, easier than rolling drunks for a few grains of gold, that's for sure.
For sure.
All right. There. The corset's in place. A little heavy, but worth it, eh?
Oh, yes.
Now help me get my dress back on. Mac, what time was the Alice Edwards coming back to pick us up?
Should be here. Hey, there she is. Just coming round the headland.
Lucky we was quick. Well, let's get our samples stowed like the good geologists we ain't. You sure you got enough rocks to prove this was a wild goose chase, Jerome?
Ah, oui. Enough to complain about what fools the Department of the Interior are on the way back to Winnipeg.
All right. Ready? Ahoy there! Alice Edwards!
I know we're early, Mr. Abernathy. You folks done what you come to do?
Indeed, Mr. Phillips. Indeed.
All right. Blanchette, take the gig over. Oui, monsieur. Did you have any luck?
Ha! Found exactly what we expected.
Gold?
Ha! Rocks, Mr. Phillips. Lots and lots of rocks.
All right, start unloading the supplies. I want to be underway in, 3 hours.
Hi, Captain. Rougeau, Klimke, get those crates down on the dock. Look lively.
Well, Captain, what do you recommend here in Hecla?
Not much to do in 3 hours, Reverend Liddell. There's the fish plant, of course, but you've already seen a bigger one at Gimli. Your best bet is the lighthouse, I'd say.
Y'all need a lighthouse out here? It's been all sunshine and pleasant breezes so far.
Don't let a couple of nice days fool you, Major. Shallow waters and big storms can make it deadly out there. Gales pile up huge waves in almost no time at all. I've been sailing Lake Winnipeg for almost 30 years, and there hasn't been a single season where we haven't lost at least one ship.
Well, it sounds like the lighthouse keeper will have some interesting tales to share.
Yeah, that he does, Reverend Liddell, that he does. Oh, wait. There he is. Magnus Salmonson. Over here.
Morning, Captain.
Magnus, these gentlemen were wondering if they could take a tour of the lighthouse while we unload.
Sure. This way, gentlemen. Now, she was built in 1898 and a good thing. Traffic's been up every year since, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
You must be seeing some competition from the railways, surely.
Good for the farmers out on the prairies, I don't doubt. But the north, look you, Reverend, they started building that line to Hudson Bay in, what was it, 1891, and the use now got to the Pas, 26 years, and they haven't even started the hard part. Nay, you mark my words, the route to salt water is still where it's always been, right out there on that lake, and will be for years to come.
Well, Mr. Solomonson, I hope you're right. I suppose it's the writer in me, but I find a certain romance in having a great inland sea available to us right here in the middle of the continent. I fear our 20th century infatuation with technology and speed is leading us to overlook such treasures.
You'll hear no argument from me, Reverend.
Tell me, Solmonson, what do you think about this story of gold at Long Point?
Oh, it's the talk of every port on the lake, that's for sure. But just that. Talk.
Truly. No rush to strike it rich?
Sensible folk got better things to do than swallow a yarn like that. You mark my words, just like I told them government fellows who came through last week. No matter what old Flett found, there ain't gonna be no strike at Long Point.
Government men?
Geologists from the Department of the Interior, they said, ordered to investigate. Wasted taxes, if you ask me.
And they'd hired a ship.
Yeah, Ellis Edwards out of Riverton. Harney Phillips was happy to take their money, I can tell you. Here we are. You step those stairs, gentlemen, and I'll show you the light.
So, Frank Oliver is taking this seriously.
Frank
Interesting.
Oliver?
He's the Minister of the Interior. I know him slightly. Well, perhaps there's something to Elga's idea after all.
Could be, Reverend Liddell. Could be.
If you just give me your hand, Mrs. McGee. Now, carefully. The rocks are mighty slick there. Ah, good.
Thank you, Major.
Here's the picnic basket.
Wouldn't want to lose that. Ah, good. I have it.
And now you, Pamela. All right. Thank you, Mr. Everett. I think 2 hours should suffice. If you could return at 3.
3 it is, Reverend Liddell. Enjoy yourselves.
Oh my, isn't this mysterious looking?
Well, Mr. Salmonson said the cave at Pine Dock was not to be missed. He was clearly right. Through here, I think.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh, I see. Well, it's a cleft in the rock. How deep do you make it, Elleston?
Oh, a good 25 feet, I should say. A natural cathedral. Thank you, Lord, for revealing another of your wonders.
It's so calm, almost otherworldly.
Get down! Your arm?
As American as apple pie, my dear Elleston. Which direction?
Above right side, I think. Everybody stay against the wall. Pamela?
I'm fine, Elleston.
As am I, though Major Jeffords appears to have a hole in his jacket.
Well, now what?
Hello?
Elliston, what are you doing? Get back.
It's most likely a hunter. If not...
I'm ready.
There are people down here. Is there anyone up there?
Did you hear anything?
No. Whoever it was appears to be gone.
Perhaps sound doesn't carry well up out of here.
Possibility, I suppose. So much for a relaxing afternoon.
Oh, it doesn't have to be a waste. After all, even if unplanned, we found a beautiful spot. The picnic basket Chef Wheel packed for us seems relatively undamaged. I say we have our luncheon just as we intended.
Pamela, you never cease to amaze me. I second the motion.
Very well. All in favor? Passed. Helga, help me lay our feast out.
Gladly, Pamela.
Elleston, a word.
Yes, Francis?
I assume you noticed I had stepped in front of Mrs. McGee just as we heard the shot.
I did. You think it's significant?
I don't know, but as an old intelligence officer, I'm sure you all can relate to my suspicion of coincidence.
I take your point. I recall telling Pamela not long after we met, where Liddell goes, adventure follows. A jest, I thought. Very well, Major. Vigilance shall be the order of the day.
It's most likely nothing, but a wise precaution nonetheless.
Indeed.
If one of you gentlemen would care to open the wine, luncheon is served.
Coming, my love.
Ralph was really quite upset when I told him about the accident. Felt guilty he hadn't been there to protect me.
Truly? It wouldn't have made the least bit of difference.
Oh, I know. But it's nice to have a man fuss over me. It's been a long time.
Will there be anything else, ladies?
When is last call for dinner, Stuart?
In half an hour, Mrs. Liddell.
Oh, in that case, I think I'll wait. Helga?
Do you have any more of that, Foyne's beer?
We do, Mrs. McGee.
I'll have that then.
At once.
I'll have to tell Patrick Shea that his creation has reached the wilds of northern Manitoba.
Please do. Coffee-infused beer. Just the thing Billy would have liked.
Billy, your late husband?
That's him. Thank you, Stuart. Nothing like your Elleston, of course, but I could have done worse.
So, not love at first sight?
More like desperation. My folks wanted me married off, and I surely wanted out of that house. So, when my father offered Billy a good job with the Hudson's Bay if he'd marry me, I said yes.
It sounds terribly transactional.
Now, don't take this the wrong way. I can see you and Elleston are deep in love. But for women like me, marriage isn't likely to be a fairy tale. Yeah, transactional sounds about right.
Helga, I'm sorry if I...
Oh, I'm not offended. I did fine. Billy wasn't home much, didn't beat me when he was, and was good about sending money. I heard he strayed from time to time, but overall, we both got what we wanted.
How did you lose him, if you don't mind me asking?
Now there's the story. Him and my brother Owen were bringing a shipment of furs down from Edmonton House on the York boats. When they got to Grand Rapids, they took it into their minds to hire a boat and go out for a joyride. Of course, neither of them knew a damn thing about sailing. Got capsized in a storm, they figure. What was left of Owen melted out of the ice at Limestone Bay the next spring. Billy got to shore and managed to walk back to Grand Rapids, but the doctor said he was raving by the time he made it, and he died the next day.
Your husband and your brother. Oh, how horrible.
Yeah. I didn't even find out till I got a letter from the company saying I had a pension. That was 10 years ago now. Lucky Gimli isn't an expensive place to live. I've done all right.
Better than all right, Helga. People along the lake truly respect you. I could see it. And now, you may be on the verge of rewriting history.
Oh, go on. You're making me blush.
And on top of it all, a not at all secret admirer. Congratulations, my dear. As long as we can avoid any more myopic hunters, you could return to Gimli both famous and engaged.
Thank you, Pamela. I hope to Sif you're right.
Sif?
A Norse earth goddess. Or as I like to think of her, the patron saint of Viking gold.
Sorry to wake you, Captain, but it's getting a bit dirty out there.
So I see, Mr. Everett. Where are we?
Gale's pushing us hard southwest and make us at least 15 miles off course.
So we're not going to make Barron's Island?
Not tonight, sir. No.
Very well. Come to 290 and try to hold her there.
290. Aye, Captain.
Engine room.
Engine room.
We're barely making way, Mr. Cornish. All ahead full.
All ahead full. Aye.
Sparks.
Aye, sir.
Get a message to Barron's. Tell them we're running for shelter at Reindeer.
Running for Reindeer. Aye, sir.
Sorry to bother you, Captain, but I thought I'd seek some clarity about our situation. Passengers are becoming somewhat anxious.
There's nothing to worry about, Reverend Liddell. Truly, as dangerous as things might seem, I can assure you the Premier has weathered far worse. However, I think it best if everyone stay in their cabins. We'll be in the lee of Reindeer Island soon, and things will calm down substantially.
Thank you, Captain. I'll pass the word along and... SOS? What ship?
Sending now. Ellis Edwards. Taking on water.
Where away?
52 degrees, 12 and a half minutes north. 97 degrees, 32 minutes west.
The chart, Mr. Everett?
I make her southwest by south, about 3 miles away.
Then we can reach her.
Aye, Reverend, that we can. Mr. Everett.
Aye, Captain.
Come to 214.
214. Aye, Captain.
Sparks. Send it, we're coming. We're making 8 knots with the wind at our backs. Call it 20 minutes, give or take.
Ellis Edwards, SS Premier en route, 20 minutes to your location. Aye, Captain.
Reverend Liddell, in these waves, getting their crew off will be somewhat trying. I'll need Mr. Everett on the bridge. Could you and Corporal Cochrane organize all the able-bodied men to stand by? My crew will be needing all the help they can get.
Of course, Captain.
Thank you. Mr. Stanley will show you where the rope lockers and grappling hooks are. All hands in life vests. It's going to be a long night.
Wait till she comes up. Wait. Jump.
My God, Elleston, this is...
I know. All right, Mr. Adams, how can we help?
The water's already above the damper. With no fire, with no power. The manual pumps are the only thing keeping us above water.
Right. Corporal, the Major and I are going below to see what we can do to keep the Alice afloat a little longer. Can you stay and help the crew with the transfer?
Not to worry, old boy. We'll get them off.
Thank you, Corporal. Pamela!
Yes, Elleston?
The Major and I are going below to help. We shan't be long.
Be careful.
We shall, my love. Very well, Mr. Adams. Lead the way.
All right, folks, let's get you to safety. We'll start with the ladies. You, ma'am, if you'll just tie this rope around your... Albertine.
If it ain't Ralph Cochran. What the hell are you doing out here?
I might ask you the same question. We'll have to catch up when this is over. All right, Stanley, she's secure. Now, Albertine, wait for the top of the next wave.
See you on the other side, boys.
And jump!
The leak must be a bad one, Mr. Adams.
You're right there, Major. Haskins, Booth, the Premier's alongside. These gentlemen will take over the pumps till we have everyone off.
We lost her, ain't we, Mr. Adams?
Afraid so, son. Now get out of here while you still can.
Radio. Come on, Charlie.
I don't like much the look of that hull behind you, Francis.
Banging against the Premier ain't helping. But we only need another 10 minutes or so. Keep pumping, gentlemen.
What's that?
Francis, the hull behind you. Look out!
Oh! Elleston, are you all right? I can't see anything in this steam.
The boiler's stove in. We've got to get out.
Elleston!
Here on the ladder. Give me your hand.
Ah, got it.
Jesus, the engine's gone out the bottom. The stack won't be far behind. Climb, men! Climb!
We'll return to For Those in Peril on the Sea after a brief intermission. Welcome back. Well, a great deal has happened since our evening began, has it not? Viking gold, a suspicious shooting, a terrifying storm, and now a shipwreck. It seems there is nowhere Elleston and Pamela can go where danger doesn't follow. This time, though, it's possible their luck may finally have run out. And now, Act 2 of For Those in Peril on the Sea, an Elleston Liddell Radio Adventure. I got you, Corporal. Over the railing now.
Thanks, Captain. Did anyone else?
She went down too fast. You're the only one we saw in the water. How many?
The two geologists, plus whoever was still below decks. Damn!
Ralph! Oh, Ralph, I was so worried.
Oh, there. A little banged up, but I'm fine, Helga. I'm fine.
Corporal?
Oh, Mrs. Liddell, I didn't see them. It's pitch as black out there in the waves. Oh, I'm so very sorry.
I'm quite sure there was nothing more you could have done, Corporal. Captain, my husband is an enormously resourceful man. If there was any way to escape that ship, he would have discovered it.
If they're out there, Mrs. Liddell, we'll find them. You have my word. In the meantime, perhaps you should get some rest.
Thank you, Captain, but I simply couldn't. I should go mad with worry. Helga, perhaps we can help make our new guests comfortable.
Of course, I'd be happy to.
And me,
Surely after your ordeal, Miss...
Narcisse, Albertine Narcisse. Weren't much of an ordeal compared to what you're going through, ma'am. I'm a cook. I could help out in the kitchen.
Thank you, Miss Narcisse. I'm sure Chef will...
I'm afraid not, Mrs. Liddell.
I beg your pardon, Corporal?
Captain, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to place Miss Narcisse under arrest.
Arrest? You lost your mind, Ralph? I ain't done nothing.
You know each other?
Oh, yes, dearie. Ralph and me go way back.
Now see here, Corporal, I'm in command of this vessel.
Captain, this is a criminal investigation. While I'm on board, I have the Crown's authority. Albertine Narcisse, I'm placing you under arrest on suspicion of robbery and receiving stolen goods.
Stolen goods, Ralph? What stolen goods?
I'm sorry to have to tell you this, Helga, but 10 years ago, a shipment of gold was stolen in Dawson City. The two suspects were your brother, Owen Cuthbertson, and your husband, Billy McGee.
You're Billy's wife? Well, if that don't beat all.
Billy? A thief? No, that can't be true.
I'm afraid it is. Back then, I was on my way to arrest them, but they both died before I could reach Grand Rapids.
Then you think the trapper's gold nugget came from this shipment?
It's a reasonable conclusion, Mrs. Liddell. Billy and Owen hired a boat that was never found. They could have made it to Long Point.
But what has that to do with Miss Narcisse?
I really wanted to spare you this, Helga, but Billy and Albertine were intimate back in Dawson.
Oh, why, you slimy son of a bitch.
Now that she's shown up here with her geologist friends, I'm beginning to think she was part of the gang from the start. Did you find it, Albertine?
I ain't saying a word to you, Ralph Cochrane. Not now. Not ever.
We'll see about that. Captain?
I'm sorry, Miss Narcisse, but Mr. Stanley, take her to the brig.
Is it my imagination or the waves getting a little lower?
Well, the gale does seem to be diminishing somewhat, but we still have to keep the bow into the wind. Keep rowing, gentlemen.
Damned if we weren't lucky to have you with us, Reverend Liddell. You're the only thing that kept us from meeting Davy Jones.
Well, the first officer of the Norden always told me that handling a small boat is like a landlubber riding a bicycle. Once you learn. Give me a little more on the starboard side, Francis.
Aye, Captain. You all learned pretty well, I'd say.
Thank you, gentlemen. Well, from the compass and what I remember of those charts, Reindeer Island should be in that general direction. That's most likely where the premiere will be.
Unless they think we went down with the Elleston.
Oh, it's only been a couple of hours. They'll still be searching. Pamela will see to that.
Pamela?
The Reverend's wife, Mr. Adams. in my experience, a very impressive woman.
She truly is. Having almost lost each other recently, I guarantee she won't let them give up anytime soon. So tell me, Mr. Adams, the Ellis didn't strike me as at all suited to this kind of weather. Why didn't the captain seek shelter when it started to blow up?
Abernathy, the government man, promised us a big bonus if we could get them to Gimli by the 5th. Captain figured we could outrun it, but the wind pushed us too far inshore. We caught a reef, couldn't find the damn leak, and, well, you know the rest.
It's kind of unusual for a government man to offer a bonus like that.
Yeah, but that wasn't the only thing unusual about him.
Indeed?
The two of them claimed to be geologists, and the woman their cook. Well, I did a little surveying when I was a lad, and the kid can't have changed that much. As for the woman, you couldn't have two eyes and not see who was really the boss. But they was paying cash and give us no trouble, so it was none of our business. Besides, she is a right fine cook, that gal.
They bring anything back with them when you all picked them up at Long Point, was it?
Sample bags. Rocks, they said, to show their bosses what a fool's errand this was.
And yet, they were in such a hurry to get back, they'd risk a storm? Unusual doesn't begin to cover it.
Y'all recall our discussion about coincidence back in the cave?
I do, Francis, I do. It appears there's much more here than meets the eye. When we get back, we'll have to do a little...
Light! Ho!
We're away!
Off! To port!
It's... Thank God in His infinite mercy. It's the premiere.
Oh, Elleston, are you sure you're all right?
Yes, my love. I promise. Just very tired. Though I'll admit, when the hull failed and we were almost trapped in the engine room, it truly seemed my time had come. Then we were in the water, and there was a lifeboat, floating free in front of us. Just another reminder not to presume to understand God's will.
I knew you were alive. I knew it.
Your confidence humbles me, my darling. Would have been a long row if you hadn't been able to find us. I understand there were casualties.
Unfortunately, yes. Corporal Cochrane had gotten everyone off but himself and the two geologists. They were all thrown into the water when the Ellis sank so quickly. We saw the corporal almost immediately, but Mr. Abernathy and his colleague must have been trapped in the wreckage.
I must get the particulars from Miss Narcisse so I can send our condolences to their families.
I'm afraid that will have to wait. Corporal Cochrane has had her detained.
Detained? Why?
He seems to think she's part of a conspiracy to steal a shipment of gold.
Mrs. McGee's Viking treasure?
So it would seem. It was a decade ago, but prime suspects were Helga's late husband and her brother.
Yet he suspects Miss Narcisse and not Mrs. McGee? Interesting.
Indeed. Despite their obvious attraction, one would think Corporal Cochrane would have at least asked her the question.
Just so. It seemed apparent on the deck of the Alice Edwards that the corporal was surprised to see Miss Narcisse here. So if he's aboard as regards this case, he must have been following...
Helga? If he thinks she undertook this trip because she has some information about where this gold is...
That could also put the incident at the cave in a different light. An attempt to frighten her into giving up her quest? No. No, that makes little sense.
More likely a chance to act the protector and gain her trust.
A better possibility, but this animus is not like you, Pamela.
I know. But there is something about him, Elleston. Something not right. I recall remarking on it to Helga when he first came aboard.
I see. Tell me, do you happen to know where the corporal is now? I think I should like a word with him.
He went to the brig immediately after the arrest to interview the suspect.
Well, if what you think is true, I fear that may not bode well for Miss Narcisse. Shall we go?
Again, Everett. Once more, Albertine. Where is the gold?
Having your bully boy work on me ain't gonna change the facts, Ralph. The government wanted to be ready if there was another gold rush. They sent Abernathy to look into it. He needed a cook. I needed a job. What happened to Abernathy, by the way? Oh! You're gonna regret that, Everett.
Enough, Everett. See here, Albertine. I detest having to hurt you. I know you and your geologist friends found it. Just tell me where it is and we can forget this unpleasantness.
That what this is, Ralph? Unpleasantness? From where I'm sitting feels more like a beating and a shakedown.
Albertine. I have been trying to solve this case for 10 years. Now that I'm this close, surely you don't think I'm going to let you stop me. Come now. We had some good times in Dawson, didn't we? Just tell me where it is and I might even be able to arrange a reward.
Ralph, you were a snake in Dawson, and you're still a snake. Oh!
I told you before, no admittance during an interview.
I suspect what's going on in here goes far beyond what normally constitutes an interview.
Elleston. Oh, excellent. I wasn't informed you'd been rescued, old man. Seems Mrs. Liddell's faith in you was well placed. However, happy as I am to see you, I'm afraid I can't have civilians present while I'm questioning a suspect.
And I suspect Commissioner Perry will be less than pleased with your approach to questioning when I contact him.
I am quite sure the Commissioner will not appreciate your interference in police business, Reverend Liddell.
I have no intention of interfering with your investigation, Corporal. If Miss Narcisse has committed a crime, she should certainly be brought to justice. However, I do insist that your work proceed in an open and civilized manner, an opinion shared by Captain Stevens. As Miss Narcisse poses no physical threat and is certainly not going to escape before we reach Grand Rapids, I strongly suggest you release her from her restraints and confine her to her cabin for the remainder of the voyage.
You understand, Reverend Liddell. I will have no choice but to lodge a formal complaint regarding your behavior here.
As is your right, sir. Mr. Everett, if you please.
Go ahead, Everett. Albertine, were I you, I'd spend my time thinking very carefully about my situation. Very carefully.
Oh, I will, Ralph. You can count on it. Oh, could I lean on you a bit, Mrs. Liddell? I'm feeling a mite unsteady.
Certainly, Miss Narcisse. This way.
Good day, Corporal.
Damn!
Do you have any idea what's going on here, Elleston?
Very little, my love, beyond the obvious fact that both the Corporal and Miss Narcisse know far more than they're letting on. The corporal's unlikely to volunteer any further information after our little scene at the brig. Let's hope that we can convince Miss Narcisse to be more forthcoming.
Who is it now?
It's Elleston and Pamela Liddell, Miss Narcisse. May we see you for a moment?
Well, not that I can keep you out, can I?
Thank you, Miss Narcisse. We wanted to say how sorry we are about your treatment in this unfortunate situation.
What do you got to be sorry about, Reverend? You're the one who got me out before they did any real damage.
How are you feeling, Miss Narcisse?
Oh, Helga, Mrs. McGee patched me up and apologized for her boyfriend's behavior. Out of character, she assures me. She has no idea.
It seems you and the corporal know each other quite...
You mean in the biblical sense?
I promise I didn't mean to...
Oh, don't get yourself in a lather. We're all grown-ups here, ain't we? Sure, I knew him. It was back in Dawson City. I was running the saloon where he did his drinking and other things. I ain't embarrassing you, am I, Mrs. Liddell?
Oh, these days I doubt there's anything you could say that would embarrass me, Miss Narcisse. As you say, we're all grown-ups here.
Atta girl. You got yourself a real live one here, Reverend. And you can call me Albertine. Miss Narcisse was my mother.
Yes. Yes, well, you were telling us about your experience with Corporal Cochran.
Right. He was one of the Northwest Mounties who was supposed to make sure the gold miners behaved themselves up in the Klondike. For the most part, that's what they did. Oh, they could get rowdy when they was drinking, as men do. But for the most part, they was a decent lot. Ralph, though? Ralph's something else again.
In what way, Miss Albertine?
Well, I'm sure you noticed he can just about charm the birds out of the trees when he wants something. Just ask Helga if you ain't. But he's also got him a real mean streak. The men in Dawson learned right quick that you didn't cross him.
Your condition makes that much apparent. But is he also dishonest, do you think?
Smart girl, your wife, Reverend. Yeah, he's crooked. Well, at least he was in Dawson. Nothing ever proved, of course, but pillow talk can be a mite more truthful than testimony, if you catch my drift.
I see. So you think he has a more than official interest in arresting you?
Mm-hmm. I'd say there's more than a passing chance. Billy and Owen drank with him more than once before they left on that last trip. If he thought Billy told me something when we was, you know.
And did he? You'll excuse me, but it would explain why you're here.
Well, as it happens, he didn't.
But it wouldn't have been too hard to put two and two together after that trapper found the nugget.
If you say so, Mrs. Liddell. Abernathy figured it was worth looking into, and the saloon business in Dawson had pretty much dried up. So I signed on.
No government involvement then?
Reverend, there's one thing you learn during a gold rush. It's anything that keeps the other prospectors off your trail is fair game. Don't seem to have worked with Ralph, though.
He does seem convinced the gold is here. Is there a reason for that?
Reverend, both you and Ralph searched this boat. What'd you find? Sample bags with a bunch of useless rocks, right? Just like I said. Seems to me none of you want to believe your own eyes. Now, why is that, I wonder?
don't you come back to bed?
It's that damn Liddell interfering with my investigation.
Well, you did get a bit carried away, don't you think? With Albertine?
Sadly, police work has always had an ugly side. Something a man who writes about crime should understand. Look, I'm sorry, Sugar. Perhaps I did go a bit too far. But then there's so much at stake.
So much at stake? It's just police work, isn't it?
It's not just police work. Look, I probably shouldn't be telling you this, Helga, but I've been a Mountie for 12 years, and this is the only case I haven't been able to crack. The only one. I've never been able to make peace with failure, so I'm afraid I may have become somewhat obsessed. When I found Albertine was on the Alice Edwards, well, let's just say I'm not here in a totally official capacity.
Ralph.
I know Albertine, Helga. She has it. I know she does. But she's just not one to frighten easily.
Not much is obvious. So, how will you get her to confess? Without that, seems to me you got nothing you could take to a judge.
Yeah, you're right about that. With Liddell protecting her, I'll never be able to make my charges stick. After 10 years, I finally have her, and now she'll get away with it? Oh, no, that is not going to happen. She may walk free, but she is, by God, not going to have that gold.
But how will you... You're gonna steal it?
You can't steal something that's already stolen, Sugar. Think of it. It may not be your Viking treasure, but it's still worth thousands of dollars and completely untraceable. Why shouldn't why shouldn't we?
We?
Helga, you don't think I'd leave you behind. Once we have it, we'll be set for the rest of our lives. Billy was going to cut you in. Do you think I would do any less for the woman I love?
It was you?
All in the past, my sweet. What matters now is our future. We just have to get Albertine to talk.
So, one more time. How do you propose to do that?
We need to get her away from the ship. And that, my love, is where you come in.
Well, the swelling's going down nicely.
Thanks, Helga. I appreciate it. You're a good friend.
Well, just between friends.
Sweet Jesus, even you?
Oh, come on, Albertine. I know Billy and Owen stole it. Only question is, where are you hiding it?
I like you, Helga. I really do. But if I found it, and I'm not saying I did, why in God's name would I tell you?
Because there's no way you can get it off this ship without help.
And supposing I had it, just why would you be wanting to help?
Ralph wants me to help him steal it back.
Of course he does, the bastard. So?
You know him better than me. He's telling me we'll go away together and live happily ever after. Is there any doubt in your mind he'll double-cross me and disappear the minute we get to Winnipeg?
And you think I won't?
Billy said you were basically honest.
He wrote to you about us?
Why not? I don't hold it against you. There was never anything between us, but he was grateful enough for the job to keep supporting me. I'm pretty sure he would have shared it.
How do I know Ralph didn't send you here to have this exact conversation?
Oh, he did. Make no mistake about that. But I got a better idea.
Are you sure she'll be here, Helga? I'm going to look the fool if I let her out and then she ran.
Where is she going to run to in Grand Rapids, Ralph? The only way out of here is the lumber boat I hired to take us back to Selkirk. Now get back in those bushes before she sees you. Wait till I make sure she's got the gold, then grab her.
All right. You won't be sorry, Helga. Chicago, New York, maybe even Paris. Would you like to see Paris, sugar?
Oui, oui, monsieur. Oh, Ralph, I love you so much. Wherever you want to go. Now hide. All right, Albertine. Any time now. Here she comes. Get ready. Albertine! Albertine, over here!
Everything go according to plan?
Boat's ready to leave as soon as your handcart gets us back to Grand Rapids. You got the gold?
Mm-hmm. Oh, God. I'm going to be happy to finally get this corset off.
All this time, right in front of us. Well done, Albertine.
Ain't it just? How long we got?
Well, the whole Portage Railway is 3.5 miles, and the nag that's pulling that flat car has seen better days, I can tell you. We'll be long gone before they finish their tour.
So, how'd you get away from him?
He really isn't that bright. We had a fight, and I told him I'd walk back. I must have put on a good show. Pamela Liddell even offered to stay with me.
That would have been a bit awkward. Well, let's get you up and start pumping.
Not so fast, Albertine.
Ralph? Helga, you lying bitch. You played me. Billy said you was honest, damn you.
Ladies, no catfighting now. Albertine, I told you to think carefully about your situation. You should have listened. Here, Helga, keep her covered.
What are you going to do, Ralph?
Well, sugar, part of the reason to come out here is that we can get rid of her body in the swamp under this bridge. So after I get her dress off...
I don't think so, Ralph.
Helga, what?
Once a snake, always a snake. Here, help me roll him under the bridge.
You're not gonna...
There. No, we ain't stopping at his level. Well, not that he doesn't deserve it. There. All right, let's get up there and start pumping. By the time he wakes up, we want to be aboard the boat and on our way south.
Amen to that. So long, Ralph.
I can see why they had to build this portage. Even the thought of running those rapids is terrifying.
Yeah, the Saskatchewan is navigable all the way from the Rockies and then almost impassable in the last 4 miles to Lake Winnipeg. God seems to have a peculiar sense of humor, wouldn't you say, Elleston?
You could be right, Francis. I think that...
What was that?
What, Mel?
I heard there, beside that bridge.
It's somebody crawling. Hey, by heavens, it's Cochrane.
Arrête, chauffeur.
Oui, monsieur.
Are you all right, Corporal? What's happened?
It was Albertine.
Miss Narcisse? How?
After I left you to make my apologies to Helga, Albertine surprised me. She came up on a velocipede and was waiting, got me with a rock and stole my service revolver.
But where is Helga?
She was